Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in the webinar today. We're live on YouTube as well as on Zoom, the webinar platform. On Zoom, you can ask some questions, so feel free to jump in during this session. Should normally be about 20 minutes in length. It's quite a broad subject today, so the basic steps for financial planning for expats. I could probably talk for a couple of hours on this, but the idea of the webinar is just to give you some basic information, and then by all means come back to me and through the various different channels. For instance, the website address there, expatfinancialplanning.com, by email, Twitter, everything else, that'll be at the end of the presentation. So my name's Andrew Talbot. I've been a financial planner for about 18 years, done quite a bit of qualifications, including the CFP. I work for Global Eye in Singapore, so we're fully regulated here. And today we're just going to go through just some of the steps that you can take just to help you with your financial planning. As I said before, it's going to be quite brief on each subject. But if you want to come back to me, then there's more information such as calculators, videos, and different steps that you can take. So these are the things that we're going to be covering today. So the first 9 different steps: write up a budget, keep cash at hand, pay off loans, debts, etc. Decide on saving and investing, make saving a habit, some bit about investing, insurances, estate planning, and then some currency stuff at the end. So 20 minutes, and by all means jump in with questions if you're a bit unsure at certain points. So the first step is to write a budget. It's a bit of a dirty word, but if you're stressed about finances, then you're not magically going to get money in order to start an emergency savings fund. So as I said, if you're stressed, then the natural response is to avoid looking at bills or bank accounts or credit card statements, because you fear it'll only make it but worse. So but you should always do a budget. People say it gives them peace of mind about their spending. They're less likely to end up in debt, not caught out by unexpected costs. You can probably get mortgages and then get your savings in order, be in a good position to retire, good position to pay your school fees for your kids, buy a new car, go on holiday, everything else that goes with it. And remember, it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. It's a well-known saying, and there's plenty of examples of wealthy people, certainly people like sports stars. Mike Tyson comes to mind, or that end up being bankrupt. You earn vast amounts of money, but if your spending's out of habit, then you're not going to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So it doesn't really matter how much income you get; it's your spending that makes a big difference. So you can set up a budget just using your spreadsheet, or write it down just in a notepad. There's some great budget apps available. This is one here, iExpense. And really, it's the first step is to know that you're going to write everything down, categorize it, and go from there. So be a spending detective. Gather all the evidence, look at your bank statements, look at your credit card statements, look at each one by or different columns, put them into columns such as needs or regular payments or wants. This is an example of a particular want, a cashback or on a purchase. Calculate, round them down, round them up, just to make it a little bit simpler. But the idea is to put them into categories, and then you analyze it, and then you're saying, look, where are my wants, where are my needs, what am I spending money on? And this is where the budget apps come into it, because they'll do that for you, or you can set up the categories that you want. So the first step is look at all your bank statements, put them onto a spreadsheet or an app, and then work out where your spending is going. And that's really the first step that anyone should do. After that, it's really a case of keeping cash on hand. And what do I mean by this? I mean, it's 3 to 6 months expenses. Doesn't mean that they're in an investment account. They should really be in a savings account, something that's separate from your current account. So when your salary goes into your current account, you've got day-to-day expenses that come out of that, then that's the way you should keep your transactions. But a savings account is really just another bank account. Could be in a different institution, but it should be separate to your savings account and current account. And it shouldn't be instant access. It should be difficult enough to get to the money, rather than 3 o'clock in the morning or whenever you're in the shops, or it's in the afternoon and you want to spend some cash. That's where it should be separate. And the reason why you have this is the emergency factors that might come up. You might need to leave the country, so flights you might need to pay for. As an expat, you're generally a guest in someone's country, so you could be asked to leave very quickly. You might need to pay your tax bill. You might need to pay the rest of your school fees or break-in rent contracts. If you're out of work for a couple of months or changing jobs, then having that emergency cash is very important. Whilst you're looking for jobs, you still need to pay the rent, school fees, and everything else that goes with it. So that's the first rule, is really to make sure that the cash is available and it's not in an account that you can access straight away. Right, so the next one is obviously to pay off loans and debts. Pay off the highest interest rate first. So if you've got credit cards, then that's the first step that we look to pay off. And then other stuff like mortgages. So you can overpay on your mortgage, and there's a quick example. It's quite a low amount, but if you had 150,000 mortgage and it was 5%, it's quite a fairly high interest rate. 25 years of remaining, paying off a 5K lump sum saves your interest by $11,500, and you repay it by 18 months. It's the same if you put $50 on the mortgage amount every month, or $100. Then what you're doing is you're saving interest, and you're saving years at the end of the term. So you own your house a lot quicker, and you save money on the interest as well. So it's a good strategy to do, and it doesn't really have to impact on anything else in your savings. The smaller amounts can make a big difference to it. So certainly pay off credit cards, loans, etc., but also look at overpaying the mortgages. So the difference between saving and investment, because they are very, very different. So savings, as we said before, is putting money aside for holidays, deposits, having your emergency cash in a separate account. Whilst investing is you're trying to make it grow. You're buying property, you're buying shares, you're buying investment funds, doing buy-to-let properties. You want that to grow quickly, whilst saving is really a risk measure. You're saying, I need to have that cash if something goes wrong. It's not about growing it, it's having that ability to access it. So you're not going to put you're going to have to in cash investments at the wrong time, or pay penalties or fees or whatever that goes with them. But investing, you really are committing money to an investment vehicle, whether that's a property or a buy-to-let property, or an investment platform, or a long-term deposit account. The longer you're in it, the more you're going to get a financial gain. And it is probably the big difference is that you're not going to have that guarantee that you'll get your money back. So there's a greater level of risk. And most investment products are for the longer term. They're suitable if you've got your cash ready, you've got your 3 to 6 months expenses. So those are the differences between the two. So if we look at savings, a couple of things that you can do, a couple of tips that you can do. It's all about making those automatic payments every month. Pay yourself first. So when you get your salary that comes in, on the day your salary goes, make sure that that saving goes into your savings account or into your investment account afterwards, rather than leaving it in your current account. If it's an automatic payment, then it's more likely to go. If you manually have to do it, then you tend to miss it, or it's a couple of days late. Means you have to log on, you have to make those payments. So it's a lot easier if it's an automatic payment. Same as paying bills, they're a lot easier if they're automatic. And small but often. Some people say, oh, I do it at the end of the quarter, or I do it when I get my bonus lump sum. Those small amounts every month, or even every week, can make a big difference because you can manage them. And then the last one is name it. To some recent studies out of the US and Europe about naming the goals. So if you say, oh, I've got a holiday trip or a holiday fund, then that's what you name it, and then you're more likely to hit those goals. Similar to a retirement, that's why they will name retirement accounts or pensions, is to say, well, this is designated for this particular goal, this particular need in the future. So naming your savings, however small it may be, is a great way to emotionally tie yourself to what you're trying to do, or remind yourself what you're trying to do with that. Okay, so if we go on to investing, this is a huge subject, and again, I can talk for an extended period on it. But I think next month we're going to do a whole how to invest as an expat webinar. So we'll go through some basic steps and techniques that you can do today, and some little bit of sort of technical terms to think about. And then next month we're really going to go into greater detail on this, the differences between certain investments, etc. But investing for you is really about it's you as an individual. How much risk can you take? What are your current finances, and what's your future goals? So if you need to add a little bit extra to your retirement, or you need to pay for school fees or university fees in the future, then it's really down to you and those terms, or how long you've got to go before you hit that is important. And ask yourself, how much loss can you take? A risk attitude is very subjective, and it's likely to be influenced by current events or recent experiences. I mean, stock markets are rising at the moment, so people are tending to take more risks. They feel more comfortable. But I remember when in 2008, when it was going the other way, or even the end of 2015, bit of a wobble. Start of 2016, when Chinese markets fell and world markets fell, people's attitude will change the level of risk, and they say, oh, I want to take less risk, I'm not comfortable with it. So understanding where you are personally with that risk. I mean, we take you through risk profile questionnaires and some psychometric testing. We have a conversation, we give you examples, and that's really where you're trying to work out what your risk level is. But it will be determined by the environment around you. So really you need to consider the goals: short, medium, and long term. Short, 5 years; medium, 5 to 10; and longer term is 10 years or more. So if you retire, and it's 10 years. If you want to save for a deposit on a house, it's normally savings, so it's cash. Stick it in the cash account. If it's saying, all right, well, I need to pay for university fees, it's probably medium term goals, or maybe even longer term. If you just want to say, I just need to invest money, then you're really looking into medium and long term. And obviously retirement's likely to be longer term goals. And the term, or the years you're going to invest, really will determine how much risk you should be taking. So the longer term goals, you could probably take a lot more risk, because you've got more time for them to recover if there is a 2008 or if there's a little wobble. So it's worth, you've got to understand what your goals are. And it's a good start today is to maybe just write them down and go, right, what's my short-term goals? What do I want to do when I leave the country you're in? Do I want to pay off my house? Do I want to buy a house? Do I want to have an investment fund available? Do I want to be halfway through to where my retirement is, or work out when I can retire early? So sitting down with those goals is a good start, and obviously we can help you do that. If you look at investing, there's just a quick example of diversification in asset classes. Don't put all your eggs in the basket is the housewife saying, but it applies to this. Just diversify away. and you're spreading your money between different kinds of investment. These are asset classes or different kinds of investment products. Property could be an investment product, an investment fund, shares in Apple, they could be investment products. And overall, this is referred to as your portfolio. So key to diversifying these asset classes. And here is a quick table about 5 different asset classes. There are sub asset classes, and you can go to the next level. You can go into geographical regions, and you can go into different levels of risk. But you can see just an overall view. For instance, cash. It's great for, as we said, emergency money, but it gets eroded by earnings over an extended period. Where something like shares, you get a lot more growth. But if you're invested in a single company, I said Apple before, then it becomes a lot more high risk. You can diversify this by investing in a fund or an ETF. That will diversify it, and the same with property. This could be residential or commercial. I mean, a lot of people own their own homes and they get a second one. The risk is that if you need to sell it, it's going to take you a while to sell it. It can go down in value. You can have issues with tenants. You can have to pay repair costs. So just understanding where that risk sits within your own personal profile. And then we go on to alternatives, which could be anything. It could be fine wines or classic cars or art, gold, bitcoins. They tend to be a little bit more unpredictable though. If you've got an interest in it and you've got a real knowledge in it, then it could be still part of your overall portfolio. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's the wrong thing to do. So if we check the insurance or come on to insurances, and particularly important for expats, mainly because if you move to a new country, then your employee benefits or death in service or what's in your contract might be very different to what you had in your home country, and or subject to local rules. So you might have visa issues. You might need to leave the country after a certain period. In Singapore, it's 30 days. So there's an extra level of risk that goes with it. I mean, if you look at certain health insurances with employees, they tend to have a maximum benefit if they're a basic level. So you might say, right, you can only claim up to $15,000 per year. In Singapore, that's a broken leg. If you have something more serious or catastrophic like a cancer, then it could run into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's always worth checking your current insurance and see what your current health is, health insurance or benefits are. And it's the same with death in service benefits. Employer might say, right, I'll give you life cover, but you got to be working on the company site in order to get it. The old saying we used to have back in the UK was, if you feel that you're having a heart attack, then run downstairs and get your company car, so you're actually on company property at that point. If you suffer a critical illness and you have to leave the country, are you likely to lose your death in service benefits because you're no longer working for the company? So that's a big risk. Major milestones such as having kids or buying a house always triggers a review of insurance needs. And there's really 4 main versions. There's health insurance, which pays for hospital bills and maybe evacuation costs. And then there's also income protection, which will give you a set amount every month. Normally expenses rather than your income. It only tends to go for a certain number of years, and then it's really dependent on what your own occupation is or if you can do another occupation. So it's quite a short-term plan. Critical illness cover offers a similar way of covering risk. If you suffer an illness, then it will pay you a lump sum. So if you had cancer, you tend to get a lump sum. We always say do 1 or 2 years salary, and then you can take time off and you can do what you want to do, change your life around. And then life cover is if you're no longer around. And there's a couple of different types of life cover, and it really is dependent on your own circumstances. So term is for until, say, your kids are no longer dependent on you or your mortgage is paid off, whereas you have the other version, which is whole of life, which could be used for legacy planning or paying a death tax or inheritance tax. So it's dependent on your own individual circumstances. And then we go on to managing the estate, which leads in from doing insurances, because that's one aspect of it. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's really just a piece of paper in the right place at the right time. And you're really trying to get two overall goals. The first one is to specify where your estate wants to go to after death. So if you want to go to the spouse, or you want it to go to the kids, but you don't want to pay tax on it. You want to pay inheritance tax, or you want to make sure that it gets them very quickly. And you can use certain techniques like a will or a trust, will substitute, or an offshore company to do this. It becomes complicated as an expat because you tend to have the different jurisdictions. So you tend to have local rules, you tend to have currencies, you might have different languages. So if you've got a property in Indonesia or Thailand or Malaysia, then you're going to have local rules on how to pass that property to the next generation or to your spouse. If they have to claim bank accounts in Singapore or US or UK, then again, it becomes a little bit difficult. So understanding what techniques you can use on every different asset. And the first stage is really to list your assets and then work out what the estate planning is for each of those assets. So if you've got insurance, you put a nomination of beneficiaries on it. If you've got an investment portfolio, you might put a trust on it. If you've got property in, say, Sri Lanka or Indonesia, then you might say, well, I'm going to use an offshore company to own that. And then the shares will pass to whoever you designated as beneficiaries. And then the second goal is really to do with children, is to make sure that they're okay until they become, they don't become dependent on you, or they reach the age of majority, as we call it. So for young parents, estate planning is fairly important, and you can solve some of this by doing insurance. You can set up guardianship forms. So have a look at our website. There's the link to the guardianship forms under the estate planning. Free to download. All we need to do is just complete it and keep it safe, or keep it somewhere that can be accessed should you not be there. It can be very complicated in understanding what all these terms mean, but there's a quick sort of list of some of the things that people say. For instance, your estate is everything you own. The beneficiaries are the people that you want them to go to. The executor would be someone that looks after it. So that could be a solicitor, that could be a friend, that could be a brother or sister. You can go on further with all the different technical points, but by all means, if you're unsure or you want to do an estate plan, then please get in touch and I'll go through this with you, and we can really delve into your own personal circumstances and how we can help you with that. And then the final part for is currencies. Very important as an expat, because you're in a different jurisdiction. You've got different currency. For instance, your home one, where you work. You might have a property that's back in Europe, so there's another currency there. You might have an investment portfolio in the US, so then there's another currency. You may need to send money around. So it's when you come to transferring cash, I always think it's better to use a currency broker, or at least compete with the banks and say, look, what rate are you giving me? Because those movements can make a big difference to whether or not you're going to increase your assets. Certainly with investments, you can have an investment that goes up 5%, but the currency's dropped 10. Therefore, you're in a deficit. Or your investment could be doing nothing, but because the currency's moved with you, you suddenly revalue it back into, say, the currency that you think about your home currency, and you've made money on it. So it is very, very important, especially as an expat. And then some of the reasons why you use it are sort of regular pensions, contributions, or you might have salaries paid in different currencies. You need to pay an overseas mortgage, or you just want to top up your bank account in your home country. So it's certainly worth looking at how you can use a currency broker. You can say, look, give me a currency in 2 days' time, or fix me a currency for the rest of the year. So at least you know what you can plan those expenditure. So therefore, that's the end of that. Thank you very much for participating, and hopefully you've learned some basic steps. As I said at the start, it's pretty sort of generic, and we've only just skimmed the surface. But those are my contact details, so you can get in contact by different means. Or if you want to set up a meeting and you want me to do some financial planning for you, then we'll be in touch and we can maybe help you out, even if it's just maybe just a conversation, just to answer any of your questions. Then we're more than happy to help you. And look, we'll have another webinar next month, probably on how to invest. So look out for the email and the adverts and everything else we do to promote it. So thank you very much for today, and have a great afternoon.